Ethan was 27 years old. He lived in Dallas, Texas. From the outside, his life looked completely normal. He had a stable job, a decent apartment, and a steady paycheck that arrived every 2 weeks. Every month, he earned around $4,500. Not rich, not poor, just somewhere in the middle. But there was one problem. No matter how much money Ethan earned, he always felt broke. Every payday followed the exact same pattern. The moment his salary arrived, he felt excited. His bank account looked healthy. His stress disappeared. For a few hours, he felt like he was finally getting ahead. But that feeling never lasted. A few days later, the money started disappearing. Not in huge amounts, not through luxury vacations, not through expensive cars. Instead, it vanished through small purchases that barely seemed important. A coffee before work, lunch delivery during a busy afternoon, a movie subscription, a music subscription, an online purchase he didn't really need, a late-night order because something looked interesting. Each purchase felt harmless. $4 here, $15 somewhere else. Nothing seemed dangerous on its own. And that's exactly why Ethan never paid attention. One rainy Thursday evening, Ethan stopped at a coffee shop on his way home. He ordered his usual drink. Nothing special, just another small expense in another ordinary day. A few minutes later, his phone vibrated. He looked down at the notification. The payment had gone through. Then he opened his banking app, and what he saw immediately made his stomach drop. His balance was only $47. 47. That was all he had left. The next paycheck was still 6 days away. Ethan stared at the screen. He refreshed the app, then refreshed it again. He decided to buy. The number didn't change. $47. How was that possible? Just 2 weeks ago, he had been paid. Where did all the money go? For the first time in years, Ethan decided to stop guessing. Instead of blaming inflation, bad luck, or low income, he decided to find the real answer. That night, Ethan sat alone in his apartment. The television was on, but he wasn't watching it. His attention was fixed on one thing, his bank statement. He downloaded the last 3 months of transactions and began scrolling through every purchase. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Most of the expenses looked small, normal, forgettable. But as he kept reading, a pattern slowly appeared. Coffee purchases, again and again, then food delivery, again and again, then subscriptions, streaming services, apps, memberships he barely remembered signing up for. By midnight, Ethan had finished reviewing everything. The numbers shocked him. Over 3 months, he had spent nearly $200 on coffee, more than $400 on food delivery, hundreds more on random purchases he couldn't even remember making. The problem wasn't one big mistake. The problem was hundreds of tiny decisions. Each one felt insignificant. Together, they were destroying his financial progress. For years, Ethan believed he needed a higher income, a better job, a bigger opportunity. But the numbers told a different story. His income wasn't the biggest problem. His habits were. The next morning, Ethan decided to run a simple experiment. Instead of creating a complicated budget, instead of tracking every dollar, instead of cutting everything he enjoyed, he made one rule, just one. Whenever he wanted to buy something that wasn't essential, he would wait 24 hours. That's it. No exceptions. If he still wanted it after 24 hours, he could buy it. The rule sounded almost too simple. But Ethan was curious. He wanted to know what would happen. A few days later, the first test arrived. While scrolling online, he found a pair of sneakers on sale. They looked amazing. His finger hovered over the Buy Now button. Normally, he would have purchased them immediately. Instead, he remembered the rule, 24 hours. Reluctantly, he closed the app. The next day, something unexpected happened. The excitement was gone. The urge had disappeared. And suddenly, buying the shoes no longer felt important. For the first time, Ethan realized something powerful. Many purchases weren't needs. They were temporary emotions disguised as needs. And emotions don't last forever. Over the next few weeks, Ethan continued using the 24-hour rule. Again and again, a new gadget caught his attention. He waited. A special sale appeared online. He waited. A restaurant advertisement promised the perfect dinner. He waited. Most of the time, the result was exactly the same. The desire faded. What felt urgent one day felt completely unnecessary the next. The change wasn't dramatic. Ethan didn't suddenly become rich. He didn't stop spending money entirely. He simply started spending more intentionally. And for the first time in years, money began staying in his account. At the end of the first month, Ethan checked his savings. $300. It wasn't a life-changing amount, but it was more than he had saved in months. The next month, the number grew again. $500, then 700, then 1,000. Something was changing. Not his income, not his job, not the economy, his behavior. And that made all the difference. As his savings increased, Ethan faced a new question. What should he do with the extra money? Years earlier, he would have spent it, rewarded himself, celebrated. But now he thought differently. He wanted his money to work for him, not the other way around. So he opened an investment account. Nothing complicated, nothing risky. He simply invested a portion of his savings every month into broad market index funds. Then he automated the process. The money moved automatically. No decisions, no emotions, no excuses. Every month, a small amount left his checking account and entered his investment account. At first, the growth seemed slow, almost invisible. But Ethan understood something most people ignored. Wealth isn't usually built in days. It's built in years. Months turned into years. The 24-hour rule became automatic. Ethan no longer had to force himself. The habit had become part of who he was. When advertisements appeared, he wasn't tempted. When sales promised limited time offers, he wasn't pressured. When friends made impulse purchases, he didn't feel left behind. Because he understood something important. Every dollar had a future value. A dollar spent today disappeared. A dollar invested could grow for years. That simple mindset changed everything. Meanwhile, his investment account continued growing. Not because he discovered secret stocks. Not because he predicted the market. Not because he was lucky. He succeeded because he stayed consistent. During good months, he invested. During bad months, he invested. When headlines predicted crashes, he invested. When everyone else was excited, he invested. Consistency became his superpower. 5 years passed. One small decision at a time. The results were impossible to ignore. His emergency fund was fully funded. His investments had grown significantly. Financial stress no longer controlled his life. Unexpected expenses no longer felt like disasters. For the first time, Ethan felt something he had never experienced before. Peace. Not because he was a millionaire, not because he had unlimited money, because he had control, and control creates confidence. One afternoon, a coworker noticed Ethan reviewing his investment account. The balance looked impressive. "What's your secret?" the coworker asked. "Did you find a great stock?" Ethan smiled. The answer was much simpler than people expected. There was no secret stock, no secret business, no secret opportunity, just a small habit repeated for years. Most people only see the final result. They see the portfolio, the savings account, the financial freedom. What they don't see are the thousands of small decisions that created it. They don't see the purchases that never happened, the impulse buys that were avoided, the emotional spending that was delayed, the habits that quietly built wealth in the background. When people looked at Ethan's success, they assumed he earned more money than everyone else. Many believed he had special knowledge. Others assumed he got lucky. But none of those things were true. The biggest turning point in Ethan's financial life started with a simple realization. Small expenses matter. Not because a cup of coffee will make you poor. Not because spending money is bad. But because habits compound. Just like investments, a small habit repeated every day can completely change your future. Most people focus on earning more. And earning more is important. But keeping more is just as important. Because it doesn't matter how much money enters your life if it leaves just as quickly. The goal isn't to stop enjoying life. The goal is to make intentional decisions. To spend on what truly matters. And eliminate what doesn't. Ethan never became wealthy overnight. His success came from patience, consistency, and discipline. 3 qualities that anyone can develop. Today, somewhere, someone is making a purchase they'll forget tomorrow. And somewhere else, someone is making a small decision that will improve their future. The difference between those two people may seem small today, but 5 years from now, the results could be completely different. Because wealth is rarely built through one massive decision. It's built through hundreds of tiny decisions, repeated over time. And sometimes, the habit that changes your life starts with waiting just 24 hours before saying yes. Small habits build big wealth.